Hi, Gary Leonard here. In my last video, we talked a little bit about choosing gyms, choosing trainers and whatnot, but I also talked about learning about your body, or rather to educate yourself. And I'm going to start a series of shorts to maybe try and give you some building blocks for your programs. Okay, I mean, whether you're going to use weights or any type of exercise, the idea is to start with how muscle contracts at the molecular level. In other words, learn how a muscle actually works and why we can perform certain movements and what the limitations are and how you get stronger. I mean, that's pretty much the gist of today. So here we are with the individual filaments inside of a cell, inside of a muscle cell, okay, or a muscle fiber. Now the filaments are myosin, which are these pink ones here between the blue ones, the pink ones, and then the blue ones are actin. Now the colors are irrelevant, they're just a way to identify these two types of filaments. So what happens is when the cell gets innervated, these little guys here grab onto the actin, the blue ones, and yank it toward the center. And literally it's like they cock and they bend and they cock and they bend, so they go back and forth, and actually it's kind of like a little handover. It's like you're pulling rope toward the center of the cell, and they'll go until it kind of crashes up in the center of the cell, and that shortens the length of the cell. Alright, so now that you've seen or experienced or had something explained to you regarding muscle contraction and how the cell shortens, okay, at its very basic, two contractile proteins, myosin and actin, pull the cell, the ends of the cell together. If you have a bunch of cells in a chain and they all contract, you get a huge contraction out of it. Each cell contracts as hard as it possibly can and to its fullest extent every time it gets innervated. So now you have a question. That's the I think Joe Weider concocted or coined the phrase all or nothing principle of muscle contraction. So when a single cell contracts, it contracts as hard as it possibly can all the way. So now what makes it so I can pick up a USB chip or a 100-pound dumbbell? And like say I don't crush the USB chip when I pick it up. And what happens there is the number of cells that you're actually innervating. We have a really amazing system in our body of nerves that allow us to control the amount of effort we're applying to anything we're doing. Okay, so we're going to talk now briefly about how you get stronger. All right, I remember having I forget exactly what they call it. It was like an electromyoscopy or something like that. They tried to determine how many or what percentage of my cells I was actually stimulating by measuring the electrical activity. And this was when I was in college. And I was able to innervate a huge number of my cells, which made me very strong. So when you become stronger, when you first start working out, it's like learning to walk. You know, the coordination isn't there, and you're not able to innervate many cells. Normally, the first day you work out, you're fairly strong, but you have really terrible stamina. You don't really have endurance because you don't have a lot of infrastructure to support extended working out. And that immediately starts changing when you're working out. And if you're consistent or persistent and patient, you'll notice that you gain more stamina. However, the muscle, the strength itself, will tend to drop off a little bit because you're just sore as heck. After a couple of good workouts, your muscles are sore. That's because there's waste product that have built up in there and you don't have the infrastructure to get that waste product out. Lactic acid usually builds up and that causes some muscle pain and soreness. And the best thing you can do, warm baths, you know, best thing you can do is work out again and just kind of take it easy. Just get the muscles a little bit pumped or get some blood flowing through them to help get that waste product out. Each time it gets a little less painful. So the first way that you become stronger when you're working out, and you'll notice this, and they're quick results, is you're able to innervate more muscle fibers at one time. So instead of only using 3 or 4% of your muscle, now you're using 15% of your muscle. And you're going to actually have a strength increase by doing that. The second way that you get stronger is you actually apply or you gain contractile protein within the muscle cells. I'm pretty sure that you don't actually gain more muscle cells. I think you have so many muscle cells and muscle fibers and they kind of stay that way. I think some of them regenerate, but I don't believe that you get more muscle cells. But the muscle cells themselves, the fibers can grow because the more actin and myosin you get in there, you can see how if that cell can, if it's contracting as hard and as strong as it possibly can, if you get more and more proteins in there, they can contract harder. So now you can actually get that cell. Now that takes time, and that takes time. You need to be working out, and there's specific ways of working out. But to get stronger, the first way, like I said, is to innervate more cells at one time. The second way is you actually get more protein into the cell. Now you'll see people that they'll tell you they've gained 25 pounds of muscle in so many months. And first thing you need to understand is muscle is 75% water. Okay, the muscle is 75% water. Fat is 40% water. And these are general statements, so anybody out there wants to criticize, feel free. Put it up on the internet, I don't care. But in general, 75% water on muscle, 40% water on fat. So when somebody says I gained 25 pounds of muscle, it's truly questionable whether that's true. And it doesn't really matter what drugs they're taking. I personally have not seen that that's really possible in a month to gain that much muscle. In fact, it's just impossible. So, for those of you, this is your first step in a series, how you get stronger. 2 different ways. You innervate more muscle cells. 2, you get more contractile proteins in the cells. And those cells grow. And that's how muscles grow, by the way. They also grow because you end up getting, I was talking about the infrastructure on getting waste products out. The vascularity, you get more blood supply in the muscles. The body's an amazing thing, and it will adapt to whatever you're doing. If you're lazy and you don't do anything, it adapts to that, and it loves that. I mean, you don't really know how bad you feel until you start working out again. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, and now I feel like garbage, and you start getting back in shape. So I'm going to go right back now to always remember to keep it simple, keep it fun, be persistent, and be patient. And with those things, you're going to gain some knowledge. Next time we'll talk a little bit about movement and what type of movements are involved. Now, when I say movement, I've taken anatomy, structure, physiology, which is like the chemistry of what goes on in the body to make it work. The physiology of exercise, which actually the physiology behind movement, what movement does to the body and how the body moves. And then kinesiology, which is actual just study of muscles and how they move as well. So next time we'll talk a little bit about movement.